Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from Group F. Will present the presentation about transitivity system. I will introduce the member of our group. My name is Farel Pahleviputra Arifin, and my partner is Nanda Tri Pangestu and Anggun, Kartika, Setyaning, Pratiwi. Okay, the first presentation will be presented by me, Farel Pahleviputra Arifin. What is transitivity? Transitivity is a property of verbs that relates to whether a verb can take direct objects and how many such objects a verb can take. It is closely related to valency, which considered other verbs' arguments in addition to direct objects. The obligatory noun phrases and prepositional phrases determine how many arguments a predicate has. Obligatory elements are considered arguments, while optional ones are never counted in the list of arguments. In this chapter, we shall talk about the clause as representation. Through the system of transitivity, we shall be exploring the clause in its who, same as does, what, same as to, and whom. The next is formal analysis. Many languages such as Hungarian mark transitivity through morphology. Transitive verbs and intransitive verbs behave in distinctive ways. In languages with polypersonal agreement, a transitive verb will agree with its subject only, while a transitive verb will agree with both subject and direct object. In other languages, the distinction is based on syntax. It is possible to identify an intransitive verb in English, for example, by attempting to supply it with an appropriate direct object. Example, he kissed her hand is transitive verb, and etc. By contrast, an intransitive verb coupled with a direct object will result in an ungrammatical utterance. What did you fall? I said a chair. Conversely, at least in a traditional analysis, using a transitive verb in English without a direct object will result in an incomplete sentence. The example is I kissed blah blah blah, you injured blah blah blah, and etc. Number 2 is about circumstances. Circumstances answer such questions as when, where, why, how many, and as what. They realize meanings about the first one is time or temporal, tells when and is probed by when, how often, how long. Example, he goes to church every Sunday. Second is place or spatial, tells where and is probed by where and how far. Number 3 is manner. Manner is tells about means, quality, and comparison. Means tells by what means and is probed by what with. Quality is tell about how and is probed by how. And comparison tells like what and is probed by what like. Number 4 is cause. Cause is tells why, a reason, purpose, and behave. Reasons is tells what causes the process and is probed by why and or how. Purpose is tells about what for. And the last is behave. Tells for whose sake and is probed by for whom. 5 is accompaniment. Tells without who or what and is probed by who or what else. Example, I left work without my briefcase. 6 is matter. Matter tells about what or with reference to what and is probed by what about. Example is this book is talking about functional grammar. The last is role. Role tells what as and is probed by as what. The next is processes. Processes are central to transitivity. Participants and circumstances are incumbent upon the doings, happenings, feelings, and beings. This suggests that there are different kinds of going on, which necessarily involve different kinds of participants in varying circumstances. There are indeed 7 different process types identified by Halliday. The first is material, second behavioral, third mental, fourth verbal, fifth relational, sixth existential, and the last is meteorological. Processes. Material processes. Material processes are processes of material doing. They express the notion that some entity physically does something which may be done to some other entity. So, clauses with a material process obligatorily have a doing process and a doer participant. The example is the fuel ignites. The fuel is participant, it ignites as process. The entity who or which one does something is the actor. There optionally is an entity to which the process is extended or directed. The entity which may be done is the goal. Here in the example, the youngster as participant actor, Wichelt as process material, his slow tooth as participant goal. There are 2 varieties of material processes. A is creative and dispositive. In the creative type, the goal is brought about by the process. You can see this picture in the right side. And then material processes take both the active voice as above and the passive voice. Here in the example, you can see this. With the sum of this, we are most used to meeting the process in the middle voice or one participant. The use of these props tells us that in the following nursery rhyme, all the processes are material. Example, Jack and Jill as actor, went as material, up the hill as circumstantial place, and etc. Okay, the next slide.
Okay, I'm Nanda Tri Pangestu. I would like to give an explanation about mental process. Mental processes are ones of sensing, like feeling, thinking, perceiving, and there are 3 types of the mental process. Affective or reactive is a feeling, and cognitive is a kind of thinking, and perspective is a kind of perceiving through the 5 senses. And the below is about the example. You can see the table. Next slide. And the next slide is about behavioral process. Processes are physiological and psychological behavior like breathing, dreaming, snoring, smiling, hiccuping, looking, watching, listening, and pondering. There is one obligatory participant, the behavior, like sensor, the behavior is a conscious being. But the process is one of doing, not sensing. We can have the example in below. Range is specific the range or scope of the process defining its coordinates or domain. Range appear in several cases, so we shall return to it below. But in behavior process, range names the behavioral annexes. And the next is about verbal processes. Verbal processes are process of saying, or more accurately, or of symbolic signaling. Very often, these are realized by two distinct clauses. The projecting clause encodes a signal torch or sayer, and the signaling or verbal process, and the other projected clause realize what was said. And this in the table is about the example. There are three participants that may be incumbent upon verbal process. The first receiver, the second target, and the third friends or verbiage. And the next material is about relational process. Relational process involves states of being, including having. They can be classified according to whether they are being used to identify something or to assign a quality to something. Process which establish and identify are called identifying process, and process which assign a quality called attribute process. Each has its own characteristic participant roles. In attributes, these are career and attribute. And below is about the example. Next.
Okay, next, I will present about existential process. My name is Anggun Kartika. So existential processes are processes of existence. So this is we can look at the sentence. There's a unicorn in the curtain. So a unicorn is existent, and in the curtain is circumstance place. So there in here, there in sentence has no representational function. It is required because of the need for a subject in English. Existential processes are expressed by verbs or existing, be, exist, arise, and the existence can be a phenomenon of any kind. Next slide. Existential there is not to be confused with circumstantial there. So the sentence this is there's your book right where you left it. So there is as attribute circumstance, and a proto as is as attributive, and your book is as carrier. So there in the sentence in there's your book tells where the book is. And then there the next sentence in there's even a book about great Australian tennis is telling you that such a book exists. Next slide. Next is meteorological processes. This is the example. It's hot. It's windy. It's 5 o'clock. So hot, windy, 5 o'clock. It is meteorological. So it has no representational function, but just provides a subject. These are analyzed as process, meteorological. The text of relief is analyzed for you. As in main scientific and technical texts, many of the processes are relational. Next slide. So this is the example. You can see the example in here. Like hepatitis B is a viral disease which affects the liver. It is one of the most prevalent STDs worldwide. There are over 300 million carriers. Because the virus causes no symptoms, most people don't know that they have the disease. Okay, next. The next material is extra participants and causations. In many process types, there is the possibility of the process being initiated externally. For instance, we often find material clauses like the devil made me do it. Here there is a third participant called the initiator, and the participant roles in the clause would be analyzed as follows. The devil as initiator made me do is material and me as actor and it as goal. Next slide. A similar situation can be found in relational processes. Attributive. Here the additional participant is called the attributor, so we would analyze the following clause as she drives me crazy. She as attributor and drives as attributive, me as carrier, and crazy as attribute. In identifying clauses, the additional participant is called the assigner, the one who assigns the identity. They call me Bruce. They as assigner call as ID, me as value, Bruce as token. In mental process, the additional participant is called the inducer. For example, she made me rethink my attitudes. She as inducer made me rethink as mental and me in here as sensor, and then my attitudes as phenomenon. In each of the examples in the series, the process is called as having an external cause. Example, another participant is necessary to bring the process into being. Okay, next.
Okay, that's all presentation from our group. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.